and worst wave of the pandemic struck, and people's memories reflect that. But there is no cenotaph, no monument in London, Moscow, or Washington, D.C. The Spanish flu is remembered personally, not collectively, not as a historical disaster, but as millions of discrete, private tragedies. Perhaps that has something to do with its shape. The First World War dragged on for 4 long years, but despite its name, the bulk of the action was concentrated in European and Middle Eastern theatres. The rest of the world felt the hot wind sucking it into that vortex, but remained outside it, and in some places the war seemed very far away indeed. The war had a geographical focus, in other words, and a narrative that unfolded in time. The Spanish flu, in contrast, engulfed the entire globe in the blink of an eye. Most of the death occurred in the 13 weeks between mid-September and mid-December 1918. It was broad in space and shallow in time, compared to a narrow, deep war. The African historian Terence Ranger pointed out in the early 2000s that such a condensed event requires a different storytelling approach. A linear narrative won't do. What's needed is something closer to the way that women in southern Africa discuss an important event in the life of their community. They describe it and then circle around it, Ranger wrote, constantly returning to it, widening it out, and bringing it into past memories and future anticipations. The Jewish text, the Talmud, is organized in a similar way. On each page, a column of ancient text is surrounded by commentaries, then by commentaries on the commentaries, in ever-increasing circles, until the central idea has been woven through space and time into the fabric of communal memory. There may be another reason why Ranger proposed a feminized history of the Spanish flu. It was generally women who nursed the ill. They were the ones who registered the sights and sounds of the sick room, who laid out the dead and took in the orphans. They were the link between the personal and the collective. At the root of every pandemic is an encounter between a disease-causing microorganism and a human being. But that encounter, along with the events that lead up to it, and the events that ensue from it, is shaped by numerous other events taking place at the same time, as well as by the weather, the price of bread, and ideas about germs, white men, and jinns. The pandemic in its turn affects the price of bread, ideas about germs, white men, and jinns, and sometimes even the weather. It is a social phenomenon as much as it is a biological one. It cannot be separated from its historical, geographical, and cultural context. The way African mothers and grandmothers recount an event gives weight to that contextual richness, even if the event it impinges on lasts no longer than a historical heartbeat. This book sets out to do the same. The time is right. In the decades immediately after the pandemic, the only people who studied it, besides actuaries employed by insurance companies, were epidemiologists, virologists, and medical historians. Since the late 1990s, however, Spanish flu historiography has exploded, and this recent burst of attention has been noticeable by its multidisciplinary nature. Now economists, sociologists, and psychologists are interested in it too, along with mainstream historians. Each has trained their gaze on a different aspect, and between them they have transformed our understanding of it. All too often, though, their conclusions are buried in specialist journals, so this book attempts to bring them together, to weave all the different strands into a more coherent picture of the beast, in all its multifaceted glory, or horror. The information that is available today is not only more academically diverse, it is also more geographically diverse, capturing the global reach of the disaster. Most accounts of the Spanish flu to date have focused on Europe or North America. They had to, because for a long time it was only in those places that data had been collected systematically. In 1998, when Spanish flu experts from around the world met in Cape Town to mark its 80th anniversary, they acknowledged that almost nothing was known about what happened in large swathes of the globe: South America, the Middle East, Russia, Southeast Asia.